Hello friends, my name is Puranjit Kumar Gaurav. Today I will discuss about autobiography of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, naming Waiting for a Visa audiobook. So let's start. In this autobiography there are six chapters named as first chapter is a childhood journey to Koregaon becomes a nightmare. Second chapter back from the west and unable to find lodging in Baroda. Third chapter pride, awkwardness, and a dangerous accident in Chalisgaon. Chapter 4 polluting the water in the fort of Daulatabad. Fifth chapter a doctor refuses to give proper care and a young woman dies. Chapter 6 a young clerk is abused and threatened until he gives up his job. In the first chapter, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar discusses about his childhood days. The first chapter is a childhood journey to Koregaon becomes a nightmare. In this chapter, Dr. Ambedkar discusses about his childhood. He says, our family came originally from Dapoli Taluka of the Ratnagiri district of the Bombay Presidency. From the very commencement of the rule of the East India Company, my forefathers had left their hereditary occupation for service in the army of the company. My father also followed the family tradition and sought service in the army. He rose to the rank of an officer and was a subedar when he retired. On his retirement, my father took the family to Napoli with a view to settling down there. But for some reason, my father changed his mind. The family left Napoli for Satara, where we lived till 1904. The first incident which I am recording as well as I can remember required in about 1901 when we were at Satara. My mother was then dead. My father was away on service as a cashier at a place called Koregaon in Khatau Taluka in the Satara district, where the government of Bombay had started the work of excavating a tank so as to give employment to famine stricken people who were dying for thousands. When my father went to Koregaon, he left me, my brother, who was older than myself, and two sons of my eldest sister, who was dead, in charge of my aunt, and some kind neighbors. My aunt was the kindest soul I know, but she was of no help to us. She was somewhat of a dwarf and had some trouble with her legs, which made it very difficult for her to move about without somebody's aid. Oftentimes she had to be lifted. I had sisters, They were married and were away living with their families. Cooking our food became a problem with us, especially since our auntie could not, on account of her helplessness, manage the job. We four children went to school and we also cooked our food. We could not prepare bread, so we lived on pulao, which we found to be the easiest dish to prepare, requiring nothing more than mixing rice and mutton. Being a cashier, my father could not leave his station to come to Satara to see us. Therefore, he wrote to us to come to Koregaon and spend our summer vacation with him. We children were thoroughly excited over the prospect, especially as none of us had up to that time seen a railway train. Great preparations were made, new sorts of English make, bright bejeweled caps, new shoes, new silk bordered dhotis were ordered for the journey. My father had given us all the particulars regarding our journey and had told us to inform him on which day we were starting so that he would send his peon to the railway station to meet us and to take us to Koregaon. According to this arrangement, myself, my brother, and one of my sister's son left Satara, our aunt remaining in the charge of our neighbors who promised to look after her. Who promised to look after her. The railway station was 10 miles distant from our place, and Tonga was engaged to take us to the station. We were dressed in the new clothing especially made for the occasion, and we left our home full of joy, but amidst the cries of my aunt, who was almost prostrate with grief at our parting. When we reached the station, my brother bought ticket and gave me and my sister's son 2 anna each as pocket money to be spent at our pleasure. We at once began our careers of writers living and writers living and each ordered a bottle of lemonade at the start. After a short while the train whistled in and we boarded it as quickly as we could. For fear of being left behind, we were told to detrain at Masoor, the nearest railway station for Koregaon. The train arrived at Masoor at about 5 in the evening, and we got down with our luggage. In a few minutes, all the passengers who had got down from the train had gone away to their destination. We four children remained on the platform, looking out for my father on or his servant whom he had promised to send. Long did we wait, but no one turned up. An hour elapsed, and the station master came to inquire. He asked me, asked us, he asked us for our tickets. We showed them to him. He asked us why we tarried. We told him that we were bound for Koregaon and that we were waiting for father or his servant to come, but that neither had turned up and that we did not know how to reach Koregaon. We were well dressed children. From our dress or talk, no one could make out that we were children of the untouchables. Indeed, the station master was quite sure we were Brahmin children and was extremely touched at the plight in which he found us. As is usual among the Hindus, the station master asked us who we were. Without a moment's thoughts, I blurted out that we were Mahars. He was stunned. His face underwent a sudden change. We could see that he was overpowered by a strange feeling of repulsion. As soon as he heard my reply, he went away him to his room, and we stood where we were. 15 to 20 minutes elapsed. The sun was almost setting. Our father had not turned up, nor had he sent his servant. And now the station master had also left us. We were quite bewildered, and the joy and happiness which we had felt at the beginning of the journey gave way to a feeling of extreme sadness. After half an hour, the station master returned and asked us what we proposed to do. We said that if we could get a bullock cart on hire, we would go to Koregaon, and if it was not very far, we would like to start straightway. There were many bullock carts. There were many bullock cart on hire. We would go to Koregaon, and if it was not very far, we would like to start straightway. There were many bullock carts playing for hire, but my reply to the station master that we were Mahars had gone round among the cartmen, and not one of them was prepared to suffer being polluted and to demean himself, carrying passengers of the untouchable classes. We were prepared to pay double the fare, but we found that money did not work. The station master, who was negotiating on our behalf, stood silent, not knowing what to do. Suddenly, a thought seemed to have entered his dead his head, and he asked us, "Can you drive the cart?" Feeling that he was finding out a solution of our difficulty, we shouted, "Yes, we can." With that answer, he went and our proposed on our behalf that we were to pay the cartman double the fare and drive the cart, and that he should walk on foot along with the cart on our journey. One cartman agreed, since it gave him an opportunity to earn his fare and also saved him from being polluted. It was about 6:30 p.m. when we were ready to start, but we were anxious not to leave the station until we were assured that we would reach Koregaon before it was dark. We therefore questioned the cartman about the distance and the time he would take to reach Koregaon. He assured us that it would be not more than 3 hours. Believing in his word, we put our luggage in the cart, thanked the station master, and got into the cart. One of us took the reins and the cart started, with the man walking by our side. Not very far from the station, there flowed a river. It was quite dry except at a place where there were small pools of water. The owner of the cart proposed that we should halt there and have our meal, as we might not get water on our way. We agreed. He asked us to give a part of his fare to enable him to go to the village and have his meal. My brother gave him some money and he left, promising to return soon. We were very hungry and were glad to have had opportunity to have a bite. My auntie had pressed our neighbors women folk into service and had got some nice preparation for us to take on our way. We opened the tiffin basket and started eating. We needed water to wash things down. One of us went to the pool of water in the river basin nearby, but the water really was no water. It was thick with mud and urine and excreta of the cows and buffaloes and other cattle who went to the pool for drinking. In fact, that water was not intended for human use. At any rate, the stink of the water was so strong we could not drink it. We had therefore to close our meal before we were satisfied and wait for the arrival of the cartman. He did not come for a long time, and all that we could do was to look for him in all directions. Ultimately, he came and we started on our journey. For some 4 or 5 miles, we drove the cart and he walked on foot. Then he suddenly jumped into the cart and took the reins from our hand. We thought this to be rather strange conduct on the part of a man who had refused to let them cart on hire for fear of pollution, to have set aside all his religious scruples, and to have consented to sit with us in the same cart. But we dared not ask him any question on the point. We were anxious to reach Koregaon, our destination, as quickly as possible, and for some time we were interested in the movement of the cart only. But some there was darkness all around us. There were no street lights to relieve the darkness. There were no men or women or even cattle passing by to make us feel that we were in their midst. We became fearful of the loneliness which surrounded us. Our anxiety was growing. We mustered all the courage we possessed. We had traveled far from Mysore. It was more than 3 hours, but there was no sign of Koregaon. There arose a strange thought within us. We suspected that the cartman intended treachery and that he was taking us to some lonely spot to kill us. We had lot of gold ornament on us, and that helped to strengthen our suspicion. We started asking him how far Koregaon was and why we were so late in reaching it. He kept on saying it is not very far, we shall soon reach. It was about 10 at night when finding that there was no trace of Koregaon. We children started crying and abusing the cartman. Our lamentation and wailing continued for a long time. The cartman made no reply. Suddenly we saw a light burning at some distance. The cartman said, "Do you see that light? That is a light of the toll collector. We will rest there for the night." We felt some relief and stopped crying. The light was distant and we could never seem to reach it. It looks us 2 hours to reach the toll collector's hut. The interval increased our anxiety and we kept on asking the cartman all sorts of questions as to why there was delay in reaching the place, whether we were going on the right road, etc. Ultimately, by midnight, the cart reached the toll collector hut. It was situated at the foot of a hill, but on the other side of the hill. When we arrived, we saw a large number of bullock carts there, all resting for the night. We were extremely hungry and wanted very much to eat. But again, there was the question of water. So we asked our driver whether it was possible to get water. We warned us, he warned us that the toll collector was a Hindu and that there was no possibility of our getting water. If he spoke the truth and said that we were Mahars, he said, "Say you are Mohammedans and try your luck." On his advice, I went to the toll collector's hut and asked him if he would give us some water. "Who are you?" he inquired. I replied that we were Musliman. I converted him with him in Urdu so as to leave no doubt that I was a real Muslim. But the trick did not work and his reply was very curt. "Who has kept water for you? There is water on the hill. If you want to go and get it, I have none." This, he dismissed me. I returned to the cart and conveyed to my brother his reply. I don't know what my brother felt. All that he did was to tell us to lie down. The bullock had been unyoked and the cart was placed sloping down on the ground. We, we spread our beds on the button planks inside the cart, and laid down our bodies to rest. Now that we had come to a place of safety, we did not mind that happened, but our minds could not help turning to the latest event. There was plenty of food with us. There was hunger burning within us. With all this, we were to sleep without food. That was because we could get no water, and we couldn't get no water because we were untouchable. Such was the last thought that entered our mind. I said, we had come to a place of safety. Evidently, my elder brother had his mis- misgivings. He misgivings. He said it was not wise for all four of us to go to sleep. Anything might happen. He suggested that at one time two should sleep and two should keep watch. So we spent the night at the foot of that hill. Early at 5 in the morning, our cartman came and suggested that we should start for Koregaon. We flatly refused. We told him that we would not move until 8 o'clock. We did not want to take any chance. He said nothing. So we left at 8 and reached Koregaon at 11. My father was surprised to see us and said that he had received no intimation of our coming. We protested that we had given intimation. He denied the fact. Subsequently, it was discovered that the fault was that of my father's servant. He had received our letter but had failed to give it to my father. This incident has a very important place in my life. I was a boy of 9 when it happened, but it was left an indelible impression on my mind. Before this incident occurred, I knew that I was an untouchable and that untouchables were subjected to certain indignities and discriminations. For instance, I knew that in the school I could not sit in the midst of my classmates according to my rank, but that I was to sit in a corner by myself. I knew that in the school I was to have a separate piece of gunny cloth for me to squat on it in the classroom, and the servant employed to clean the school would not touch the gunny cloth used by me. I was required to carry the gunny cloth home in the evening and bring it back to next day. While in the school, I knew that children of the untouchables, children of the touchables class, when they felt thirsty, could go out to the water tap, open it, and quench their thirst. All that was necessary was the permission of the teacher. But my position was separate. It could not touch the tap. I could not touch the tap, and unless it was opened for it by a touchable person, it was not possible for me to quench my thirst. In my case, the permission of the teacher was not enough. The presence of the school peon was necessary, for he was the only person whom the class teacher could use for such a purpose. If the peon was not available, I had to go without water. The situation can be summed up in the statement, no peon, no water.